Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the United Front podcast with me and Mr. M. Breezy. It's been a fantastic week of football for the pair of us, so we're going to forgo the Twitter ramblings of madmen online and go straight into our own ramblings of online madmen online. We've got a few talking points for both of our teams, but should we get the pain out of the way first? Should we jump
let's do it.
into the Newcastle 4, West Ham 3, from 3-1 up? Calvin Phillips comes on to change the game in the wrong way. All the Newcastle players were injured, and David Moyes did a masterclass.
Did you see my tweet when Phillips came on?
You told me that you didn't watch any football after this, and I can completely understand why. But do you want to here's your opportunity to vent.
Yeah, I don't know if you did you see my tweet when Phillips came on? Yeah. It's annoying. Some other guy was like, Calvin Phillips is coming, I'm going to lose 4-3 now, and he got like, his tweet banged. Where I'm just like, oh, brilliant. So I can't even win at Twitter. This is ridiculous. I'll start with the positives, I guess. I thought for the first hour, obviously the first 5 minutes aside when Soufal clumsy gave away a penalty, which I haven't got any issues with. It was a pen.
Yeah.
I actually thought Moyes got it all bang on. I thought it was I think I said in my Discord at the time, it's the best we've looked in terms of being a counter-attacking team all season. It felt like in terms of when we actually got the ball and broke, every ball was a pass forward and was you could tell the aim was to try and get towards goal and create a chance, which usually we get the ball and either just lump it aimlessly or I don't know, end up going back. James Ward-Prowse will pass it backwards for some reason. It'll just kill the counter-attack dead. To go in obviously 2-1 up and then get the third goal straight away after half time, I was like, yeah, fucking hell, Moyes has got this absolutely bang on. And then obviously you're watching all the Newcastle players drop like flies for that throughout the entire game.
It was ridiculous. It was because I had the game on. I had it on the background while I was doing other stuff. And it was like player down, okay, he's coming off, player down, he's coming off. And then there was they'd used all their sub opportunities in the second half. It was and then someone else starts limping. It's like, well, they can't take him off. They've used all the pauses.
I think they took off two substitutes. I think Almiron and Kraft both came on. They both ended up coming off as well. I've never seen anything like it. Which we'll talk about in a sec because that's wild. But it's a few things for me. I'm gonna touch on Moyes and Phillips in a sec. So I do think what I'm about to talk about isn't the sole reason that we lost the game, but I do think it was a big enough turning point that it swung momentum back in Newcastle's favour, and that was the second penalty. I don't understand how that can be given as a pen. It sucks more because I feel like we've been stiffed quite a lot in the last couple of weeks from VAR anyway. I go back to the handball, it should have been against Burnley. There was obviously a couple of decisions against Villa. I think there was another one I'm probably forgetting as well, where it's just not gone our way. For that one to be given as a penalty for Newcastle, when it sucks that it happened to Phillips, but I don't know what more he can. I don't know what else he can really do in that situation other than not take a touch before trying to clear it.
Well, I tweeted out I hate that was given. I understand why it's been given because Gordon's been kicked in the penalty area.
Yeah,
but he's reaching from behind Calvin Phillips. He can't reach the ball. He gets nowhere near it. He's not in control of the ball before that. So he's got nothing to do with the play. And he literally just... I don't know whether that's his thinking or whether he's thinking, oh, if I stretch, I can reach it. But he gets nowhere near it, puts his foot across the front of Calvin Phillips. So Calvin Phillips... It's a foul on Calvin Phillips.
Yeah.
More than it is a foul on it, because he's got no right to go for the ball. He's not going to reach it. And the fact that it's been the fact that the VAR's even go and have a look at this at the screen is a joke. The fact that the referee in the first instance saw it, thought that's not a penalty, then went and saw it again and then thought, all right, I'm going to change my mind to the wrong decision, is ridiculous. Getting kicked in the penalty area isn't always a penalty, especially when you're nowhere near the ball. It's not like he targeted him, kicked him off the ball because he thought he was going to get somewhere or it was a lash out. He caused that. It should have been a free kick to West Ham. And yeah, you were still 3-2 up at that time, but the turning point, that momentum and oh god, here we go. That's got to affect the game, right?
Well, because at that point, there's half hour to go. Newcastle, in terms of being in the stadium, I imagine. And, we've all been there. You're seeing half your team drop off with injuries, and like you say, barely fit. You got Fabian Schär who's got one leg. Like you got like a team of people who can barely run, and you've been sucker punched with 3 counter-attacking goals. Like that goes in, and like you see, you just saw it gave the entire place a lift. It felt like the Newcastle players had a lot more belief in them, that they could go on and get themselves an equaliser. Again, half hour to play is a long time, like to go and get yourself a goal, let alone 2 goals.
Yeah.
I firmly believe if that didn't happen, I don't think Newcastle will score another goal in that game, and I think we see it out and we win. Because I felt it's you're watching a game, you feel comfortable enough. And I was on my phone, like sort of like watching the game, but like knowing I didn't have to pay full attention because I felt like whilst we weren't creating loads of opportunities since we scored the 3rd, I never really felt threatened. I know they had a couple of chances, but again, it just felt like they'd missed a couple of like sitters and whatnot, and it just felt like the confidence was coming out of the Newcastle players, and the stadium was quite flat. So I was like, okay, we should be okay. And then that happens. Like I say, it just gives the entire ground a lift.
Yeah.
And like I say, for it to happen to Calvin Phillips, which, that I don't blame him for. But what goes on to happen later, I do. But yeah, just
he's not having a fun time,
sums it up. No, certainly not. The thing, and this is where I got to go at Moyes here. I don't think he should have been on the pitch at that time in the game in the first place. Really, like taking Antonio off with half hours to play. I get it. He's 34. He's just come back from a big injury, and we've got Spurs at home on Tuesday. He's trying to, he wants to sort of have him, trying to manage him and make sure he's well rested for the Spurs game. I haven't got an issue with that. That's fine. I just don't understand why you bring Calvin Phillips on. Like, no, even just forgetting the fact that he's been in horrendous form since he's joined. You've got, I say options off the bench. Again, it just further highlights how much of a mess our January window was. But like, even so, you've got Max Cornet on the bench, who could be an outlet. You've got Danny Ings. If you really wanted to, you could throw him up. Even just play him like we did against Sheffield United, stick him just behind like Jared Bowen up front and have him sort of operate as like a 10 almost, or as like a deep line forward in FM terms,
just looking
right?
for knockdowns and stuff like that.
Basically, yeah. Or you got Divine Mabama if you want to give him another chance, sort of thing. There was a number of options. What Moyes ended up doing by making that switch and putting Phillips in midfield with Ward-Prowse and Souček was having a really good game. He moved Souček out from sort of that 6th position and moved him a bit further forward. He moved Paqueta, who was having a fantastic game in the centre, moved him, I couldn't figure out, either out on the left or up front. I think it's sort of switched between him and Bowen quite a few times. And then, like I say, at one point, he did in fact move Bowen into the centre where he was having an okay game up to that point, and he just completely took him out of the game. But it's like you've got the guy in the middle who, when you get the opportunity to break and counter attack, you've got someone who can pick a pass, who can get you up the pitch. And you just shoved him out up against Dan Burn, and it's like where he's not going to win headers in the air. He's not going to. Like, he can hold the ball up, okay. He's good at hold up play, but not against a 6'6" centre back, or however tall Dan Burn is.
9'3", I think.
Yeah. Like I just don't. And like you said after the game, we were under the cosh a little bit, and we're trying to be a little bit more defensive, like try and bring a bit more defensive solidity. So I get that, but like you can do that without completely killing your counter attack as well.
Yeah.
Like. And he did the same thing against Villa. Like, he took Antonio off, and I don't think it was for Phillips. It might have been for another midfielder. But it's like, I think it was for Ward-Prowse. It's like, you've just killed us.
If you're going to be defensively solid and play on the back foot, then you need those outlets. Like, you need players who can either play deep passes from deep, like you would with Paqueta, or someone who can pick up the ball and run with it, like Paqueta, basically. Yeah. So like moving Paqueta out of an influential position on the pitch, it's just going to kill any opportunity. And then all you're doing is just inviting more and more and more pressure. Like,
it's exactly what
happens
all
the time. Like,
it's especially with him. It's almost like it's almost like this is new to him. Like, it's a shock whenever it happens.
It's like he's not been playing this way for 30 years.
Yeah, it's almost like, I can't believe it. Like, I got to sit 10 yards back, and they just had loads of chances. It's like, what do you think? Like, why do you think that happens? Again, like, I'm not Danny Ings' biggest fan, but like the games where he's been most effective, in the rare few games he's been effective for us this season, he's played close to someone, he's dropped in a little bit deeper. Like I say, in sort of basically playing as like a 10, because he will sort of work back, try and win the ball back, and he can. Not the greatest hold-up play in the world, but he'll get the ball and try and get out to the wingers. Like,
he's got a decent
minimum.
first touch, and like he's not an idiot. Yeah. Like, he's a competent footballer.
Exactly. And it's like, and like I say, it got to 3-2, and obviously it was 3-1 when he made that switch, and it's the amount of times that you can go back on other episodes where I've sat here and said like, oh, we were winning, and then we sat off too much and just invited all this pressure on, and we crumbled, and it's happened all season. And the worst part is, and again, it's on him. And I do think some of the in-game management from the players on the pitch was questionable at best. There was a moment where it was either 3-1 or it might have been 3-2 at this point. We managed to actually finally break out. And I think Gordon sort of just pulls back Kudus on the halfway line. We get a free kick. And it's an opportunity at that point just to keep the ball for a little bit. And Kurt Zouma rocks up, takes a free kick and just boots out for a goal kick. And it's like, what? Can you just think? Like, just have some sense of in-game management here. Just try and keep the ball for 10 minutes. Just try and kill the game a little bit. Even if you are just knocking it around the back between yourselves. Like, why are you just giving them the ball? Like,
well, then it's supposed to Kurt Zouma and you really want that.
Yeah, no, that is a fair point. But when it just felt like that last half hour, as soon as Phillips came on, it felt, when you watch a team who's trying to hold on to a 1-goal lead with 5 minutes to go.
Yeah.
It felt like we were trying to do that for half an hour. And it's like, at some point, and as I said, as it's happened loads of times this season, our defence, even though, again, I do think, like, Soufal had a stinker. He was awful. Zouma was okay, given his recent standards. I thought Mavropanos looked really, really good. And I thought Emerson played all right. Like, we weren't having... It wasn't like the entire team was playing terribly. There were some really good performances throughout the game for us. But we've seen it time and time again this season. If we as a team, in our defence, if we invite too much pressure, eventually, we just crumble. Like the dam bursts.
Zouma was massively at fault for that Barnes goal. Like, he just got...
The equaliser, yeah.
Yeah, where he ran off the back of him. And he looked like he looked like he couldn't feel his legs.
No.
He was like falling back.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
he's got the mobility of a fucking of a truck. Do you know what I mean? Like he just...
I'd back me to outturn him, and that's saying something.
Yeah. But this is the issue. It's like you've got... He's been like this for about 2 months now. Again, this isn't a surprise. He's deteriorating as a footballer because he's got one working knee. Again, it's not news. And it's like we're going to have to play again on Tuesday. There's a likelihood Moyes is going to play him again. But like, Anton Bonner's like 52. I get it. He almost play him every single week. But it's like him and Mavropanos played as a pair against Arsenal when we won earlier in the season. You can stick him in for that game. Yeah. If Agaird's injured or whatever, stick Bonner in for a game. Can't be any worse. Bonner's got better, even though he's probably as mobile as Zouma is, he's got a better reading of the game, I think. Zouma, I think we said a few episodes ago, it's sort of becoming quite obvious that Zuma's pace before his injury, it's kind of bailed him out of a lot of situations. And now that pace is gone, he's kind of being exposed for just not being a very good defender.
Yeah.
Whereas at least Bonner's got
you see it a lot with defenders
reading.
like that, where they've relied on their pace for a while. And once that goes, they just look absolutely lost.
Yeah, Bellerin was the best example of that, I think, when he was when his legs started going at Arsenal.
Yeah. It's gonna be interesting to see what happens when Kyle Walker slows down.
Yeah, that's
he looks like the League Two player he actually is.
But so once again, David Moyes just is his own worst enemy. And I think that is it's annoying. It was a big game for us. Obviously, Newcastle were 6 points behind us. No, I think even 5 points behind us, right? And now they're only a couple points behind us with a game in hand. And obviously, there's not much separating the teams in those sort of fight for those European spots. And that's a game it felt like we had to win, especially after dropping points to Burnley in recent weeks and not getting the job done against Villa.
Yeah.
It just from being 3-1 up a half hour to go. If you want European football at the end of the year, that's a game you've got to see through to the end and win. And I think I texted my mate afterwards. I was like, that feels like the nail in the coffin in terms of because our fixtures in this running are brutal. We've got Liverpool, City, Chelsea's not difficult, but Spurs on Tuesday at home, and then there's Palace at home, which you might look at and go that could be a good win, but that's in between the Leverkusen games. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's well, that's one that. Oh no, I think it might be Fulham that's in between the Leverkusen games. It's Fulham have already beaten us 5-0 already this season.
Yeah, so you got Spurs, then Wolves, and then Leverkusen, Fulham, Leverkusen again, and then Palace.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. It's a rough. And I think Liverpool's after Palace. It's a rough fixture list. And we've got one of the smallest squads in the league, one of the oldest squads in the league, and we've got a manager who refuses to rotate. And any player who could have rotated out, we sold off in January and didn't replace him. I think that's the biggest frustration for me. It's not the first time West Ham have been in this situation where we've been in a good position in the table in January, and you're thinking all we need is 2 or 3 signings just to bolster the squad a little bit, or replace players that aren't,
or even not sell all the players that are the backups.
that's exactly. It's if you're going to sell them, replace them. I had no issue with Fornals and Ben Rama going as long as they were replaced, and they weren't replaced. That's insane. Like you're still in a situation where Mikel Antonio is the only and but Danny Ings isn't really usable in Moyes' system. So you've got Mikel Antonio is the one working striker, and failing that, I'll stick Jarrod Bowen through the middle, where he might score, but he's nowhere near as effective. Like, yeah,
it's just around, but like refuse to play him. Like,
this is the thing. Like, we're giving Calvin Phillips how many chances to turn it around, and like Max Cornet's not even done anything wrong, really. He turned up and got injured. That's all he did wrong. He might be shit. I don't know because I've never seen him play. Like,
he was pretty effective when he came in at Burnley. Like, he's not a world beater, but he's he's a good transitional player. He's quick. He gets in behind. Like, so.
You think he's scored his first goal for club against Sheffield United back in January, and his reward was he's never been seen again. It's so weird. And then I guess. Well, we'll all chat about Newcastle's office, but I guess we kind of do have to touch on Calvin Phillips. Yeah, it might be. I mean, I was in your Discord on after the game. I think it's fair to say my head had gone. Some of the stuff I was coming out with. He might be the worst signing West Ham have ever made in recent memory.
In terms of effect since signing, because, like I said it in the Discord, like, am I right in thinking he's played like 7 games, he's given away 3 penalties and been sent off?
Yeah, I think he's given away 3 goals, 1 penalty, and got sent off.
Oh, that was it. Yeah.
I think he's been directly responsible for 3 goals.
Oh yeah. The first 2 games he played, didn't he just pass the ball directly to a striker? Basically.
Yep. So directly involved in 3 goals being conceded, sent off, hooked at half time against Burnley, came on at half time against Arsenal in a game we lost 6-0 and he still looks shit, which is mad. And then gave away a penalty and then just the 4th goal is just like, I spoke about this a little bit on my stream last night. Like, prior to the game, I think I said last week, like, I do feel sorry for him because it's like confidence must be at an all-time low. He's not, he's lost his place in the England squad. Hadn't played for 18 months prior to moving to us. Came here, trying to revive his career. It's not gone well for him, and it looks like he's not going to go to the Euros as a result, and rightfully so.
Oh, I don't know. Southgate's rubbing his hands. He's getting minutes under his belt.
No, he's not. There's no way. There's no way it'll go. But after watching him yesterday, I can't even feel sorry for him anymore because I watched him sort of like stroll around the pitch, like especially after the penalty, he gave away the penalty and stuff, and it's like, I don't know where it might just be the fact his confidence on the floor, or he knows that he's not coming here permanently next year. Doesn't look like he's even trying. Like, he's just sort of lazily running around. There's moments where like he sort of half-assed goes in for a tackle or a shoulder-to-shoulder thing. Like, he went for a shoulder-to-shoulder with Gordon and bounced off him. I'm not being funny. Gordon's got the physique of a child. Like, so and there was like,
after giving away a penalty, you'd be full-blooded, trying to get something. Like, I'm really like, look at the effort I'm putting in to try and rectify this.
Exactly. No. And it's like the Harvey Barnes goal just gets too tight to him and just lets him roll off him. And like, he did something similar against Burnley a couple of weeks ago, and like, I can't excuse it anymore. I don't know. It just looks like he looks like a player who's just completely given up, not on just his West Ham career, but just on football in general. But he's being paid 150 odd grand a week, and like,
I tell you what, that one season under Bielsa has really like lit a fire under him that is not worth. I don't know any Leeds fans. I don't know how good he was prior to Bielsa or anything. I think he was, from what I understand, and like, don't get me wrong, I don't watch a lot of Leeds games, but like that first season, I watched a fair bit of them. Like, and let's not forget, like, even those 2 seasons he had in the Prem at Leeds, he played about half the games because he was constantly injured.
Yeah.
As far as I understand, he was good in the Championship, kind of anchoring that midfield and spraying the ball to the flanks, like being that first point of a direct attack. But then he gets into the Premier League, like I say, plays 50% of the games, gets signed by Man City, can't break into the City team, like can't even get into the City team when there's no other like there was injury crises there, and he was giving Rico Lewis minutes rather than him.
Yeah,
like I think that says a lot. When managers don't feel like he's worth it at all, not worth the risk. And when he did play for City, he wasn't very good. And now he's showing his lack of quality now. Maybe he is just a good Championship player. And now he's given up on, on the effort. Like, I've seen him play pretty well in an England squad, but That might
How
have
long
been
ago
against
was that
San
now,
Marino.
though?
Like,
Well, like, he was, to see him his credit, he was really good in the Euros, the last Euros.
yeah,
right?
he looked pretty dynamic
3 years ago.
Yeah.
He was back, but that was in a system where he's playing next to Declan Rice, and those two as a midfield pair, at the time complement each other fairly well.
Yeah,
and it's in a because it's international football. It's slower than Premier League football is, and he's playing in a system that's a little bit more, compact or a bit more, slightly more defensive or cautious or whatever.
Let's be brutally honest, international football isn't the best quality of football.
Yeah, basically. So, he's got the tools to shine there. Whereas, like, and I kind of thought that'd be the case when he came here. Like, he's playing under a manager who plays a similar type of way. Managers wanted him for ages. Like, I think Moyes said he wanted to be the one to partner Declan Rice and then replace him when he eventually left. Like, it's just not. I think it's like you said. It might just be that he just actually isn't that good. As he's just had a bit of a purple patch under Bielsa at Leeds, and sort of now he's gone to a different environment. It's just sort of been shown up for what he is, which is just not a very good footballer. Which I hate to say, he seems like a nice bloke, but like,
yeah,
it's not good.
But it doesn't. The thing is, like, saying someone's not a very good footballer isn't a slight, because there's not a lot of people who are good enough to play Premier League football. Maybe like if he does get a bit of fitness and a bit of kind of consistency in the right system, he might be a useful squad player. But like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe a journey back to Leeds is on the cards if they don't come up.
That seems to be it. But like, apparently, I saw an article today. It's like they'll be willing to pay 30 million for him. It's like, why? Save your money. Like, genuinely, like, why spend 30 million quid on a what's the word? Like, just to get a former player back, like a nostalgia signing. Do you know what I mean? Like, hey, look, Calvin Phillips is back. Like, what's the point?
His contract's up in a year anyway, isn't it? Like,
yeah.
So,
just.
He's not worth that money.
No,
he's not worth that money.
No, and just last one. I don't know if you saw. Did you see the whole thing with the incident with the fan at the end of the game?
Oh, where he flipped him off because they waited around for half an hour to slag him off.
Yeah.
It's
a bit of like
what do you expect? That's someone who's waited around to get that photo. It's like, what I'm going to do? I'm going to hang around here to slag someone off until they flip me off.
Yeah,
and then I'm going to try and make it a news thing, which has happened. It's not a good look for him, but I don't blame him.
It's one of them. I said to many of mine, it's like it's just one of them. No one really comes out looking great. It's like, if you're going to stay around for an extra hour after the game just to call someone useless, like sometimes you're going to get flipped. They're going to give it back. Do you know what I mean? Like, but like I say, in terms of like in terms of trying to get the fans back on side, it's not going to do him any favors. But not like I don't really care. Like, but
it could have been worse. He could have spat a teenage girl out of a car window.
Yeah, exactly. Or kicked a cat. If he kicked a cat, he'd be club captain by now. Yeah. So that's something to aspire by, isn't it? Yeah. And as for Newcastle, I think Steve Bruce put a curse on them. I'm convinced. I think Steve Bruce is practicing some sort of witchcraft, because that's mental. Like, they've had 2 centre backs get ACL injuries in the space of a week.
Yeah,
like,
it's
that's ridiculous.
I think it is just workload and the effort that is required to play in that system. Like, they needed to strengthen significantly more than they did, and I think there's been some really good articles, like in the Athletic and Tifo and all that kind of stuff, saying that like they achieved Champions League so much earlier than they expected, and you can tell just because, well, we know that that's the case, but like, their recruitment plan just isn't up to speed yet. Like, they don't have the funds to do it. They don't have the space in their profit and sustainability. They don't have they've just not had the opportunity to build a squad. And because they're playing the same 11, 12, 13 players week in week, you're just redlining all the time. And now it's just a self-fulfilling prophecy that you have to rush players back. And you see it. I've seen it at United, like rushing players back because they're so key to a system, because we've done shit recruitment for so long. They just end up getting injured again. And because then you're down to a smaller group of players, they pick up injuries, and it's just this self-fulfilling prophecy. And what he needs to do is figure out a different way to play so they're not redlining all these players so much. Yeah. But can he do it? I mean, he's kind of... Has he even got the opportunity to do it now? Because he's even got a defence anymore. Like, it's going to be a case of, like, children are going to have to play now. So we'll see how it goes for the rest of the year with Newcastle. But
did you hear what Joe Cole said, by the way, when the game... The game was on. They were talking about, like, when just by like the 5th player had gone down at this point. They brought Joe Cole in. Oh, I really like Joe Cole, but like
he was coming out with some absolute waffle in that game, though.
Yeah, he was going like, That's the thing. Like, this can't just be bad luck. There's got to be something going on the training ground. I'm like, okay, no, he's onto something here. Go on, Joe, finish the point, tap it in. And he goes, you got all these sports scientists. Maybe there's too many sports scientists. Maybe it's too many cook spoil the broth type situation. Like, maybe it's just a case of just looking at what they're doing on the training ground. It's like, what? What are you on about? Like, there's too many medical professionals. Like, how's that a bad thing?
Too many people who know what they're doing at that club.
Yeah, I know. Too many experts. Like, it's getting a bit. Oh,
he came out. He came out with another absolute corker, talking about Harvey Barnes. He said he's an old school winger, but he moves like a striker and he's a good finisher. It's like, so he's not an old school winger then, is he?
Well, that's a modern winger.
Yeah. We describe him there as a modern inside forward, not an old school winger.
I love Joe Cole. He's like, and it's pure because he's one of my favourite players. But like, I remember someone telling me at the time, it's like, yeah, he's not not meant to be the brightest bulb in the box.
Yeah, he comes across that way.
Yeah, bless him. Oh well,
he's good enough on camera. He comes out with less waffle than people that apparently know what they're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. So.
Well, we'll move on from the pain of your game. We'll move on to mine a little bit. But should we break it up a little bit by by discussing the potential title decider, what everyone expected to be the pantheon of football, the most entertaining game of the season, a bore 0-0 City and Arsenal game.
Shouldn't be surprised at this point.
I kind of expected it, but I hoped it wouldn't be the case. It just seemed like both teams was too scared to give anything up. There was like on an individual footballer level, there was some really good play. I think Bernardo Silva was brilliant again. Like I maintain he is the most underappreciated player in the Premier League. Not that people don't think he's good, but I think if he plays in any other team, he's held in the same regard as like Kevin De Bruyne, and like he is held in that same regard because I think he is so good. He didn't put a foot wrong the entire game. Everyone seemed pretty robust. I think Arsenal defended pretty well, but City didn't really. City have this thing where when a team as dangerous as Arsenal on the counter they almost refuse to try and create low quality chances. It's like, no, we're only going to shoot when it's a guaranteed goal. And I watched 35 minutes of football and saw 2 shots. It's like, Jesus Christ. The amount of times that it was like played like side to side down the wings, and obviously City dominated the ball, and like Rodri would get it and just turn around, ping it right back to the keeper. And I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ. They're resetting, they're going again. It's like, for God's sake. And there was a couple of opportunities. There was a couple of decent opportunities for Gabby Jesus, and I dare say if one of those goes in, it might have opened the game up a bit. But that almost reinforced, I think, Pep's thinking of like, look, they can get us in the break. We need to keep more of the ball. Never give them the ball. And it just ended up being the dullest game. There was no tempo. Like there was no real creativity. Like I say, on an individual level, like there was some really good play, like some nice bits of passing and skill and stuff, but no creativity. And yeah, it was dull. Someone in my Discord said they'd rather watch Man United concede 30 shots a game than watch that. And as a United fan, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
It's like, I could see why it's a more entertaining match to watch.
Well, it's like, I bear in mind, I said the day before, I just watched my team blow a 3-1 lead with half hour to play, and I was like, well, it was still more fun than that. Yeah. Like in like a sadistic kind of way. But like, if I was a neutral, I know what game I'd rather watch. It's like you said, though, both teams felt like they were just too scared to lose the game, which is weird to me because, like, I understand that from Arsenal's perspective. I understand why Arsenal sat a lot deeper and were trying to hit on the break and stuff, because I think, they lose that game, they're out of the title race. I think that's sort of the common consensus, right?
Yeah.
If City lose that, I don't think they're out of it. Like, just because it's City. I mean, they're 3 points off top now, so they still would have been 3 points behind Liverpool, like, essentially. So, or 3 or 4 points off Liverpool. So, like, even if they lose that game, it's not over for them. Whereas I think if Arsenal had, it just would have been too damaging, especially with, first season back in the Champions League, God knows how long, and trying to manage that at the same time. Like, I think that will ultimately be their undoing. But I just felt like City could have taken more risks. I thought they were average. Just really, really average. Like,
yeah, and you had the players who usually make the difference having off games. Like Kevin De Bruyne, as amazing as he is, I don't think he really got into the groove of the game. He didn't seem to be getting on the ball that much and wasn't really creating much. Haaland just looked like he was having one of those off games. Like everything was bouncing off him. And he had that free shot at the back post where he just missed the ball.
Oh, yeah.
It's almost unforgivable, especially for a player of his quality. But I felt like Arsenal had to go and win that game to essentially win the title, I thought.
Yeah.
At least to show some impetus to try and win the title. And I think the fact that they were just too scared to kind of push out and do anything kind of played into City's hands, because, like you say, City could have lost it and it's still going to be in the title race. I think them sitting deep and just letting him knock the ball around, City were just thinking, well, this is fine for us. We'll go and win the rest of our games and win the title.
Yeah, it's interesting because I felt Arsenal probably actually, as the game was going on, I felt Arsenal were having maybe not the better opportunities, but they had opportunities to create opportunities, if that makes sense. They're fine. Their play and decision making in the final third really let them down. But there was a good few times where they did break quite well. There was a moment, I think,
on the counter they had some really good opportunities.
Yeah. Was it when Kovacic? I think Kovacic gave the ball away and sort of Saka latched onto it, and then he just sort of got caught in two minds of whether to sort of cut and go for goal or cut it across for Havertz or Jesus, and it just completely killed the counter attack dead. Yeah. It's like in those moments you just need. So if that's Liverpool, for example, that's Mo Salah gets on into that. He's 9 times out of 10, he's probably either setting a goal up or putting that in the bottom corner. And Arsenal just didn't really have that killer instinct. It felt, I don't want to say they froze it. It just felt like that.
So they bottled it, right?
They bottled it. No, it just felt like for certain players, when they had opportunities to make something happen and be the game winner, it just felt like they got in their own heads. I felt with Jesus a couple of times where he sort of cut in and he felt like he could have taken a shot and then he checked back and passed it again. Or Odegaard, I thought, was really poor, especially in the second half, just kept giving the ball away. And he's usually the one that will, even if Arsenal aren't firing all cylinders, they give the ball to him, he can still make something happen.
Yeah.
I don't think that's like a. I actually thought. So I think Arteta's game plan could have worked. I just think the players on the day just kind of got in their own heads a little bit.
Yeah, it didn't work out. Yeah, it happens. Especially when you're not touching the ball for 70% of the game. Like you can. I assume I'm talking like I'm an ex-pro. like I assume when you get the ball and you see an opportunity, like you almost get overexcited, a bit overexcited, and rush it. And when you need that bit of composure. So.
Yeah.
But anyway, dull game, Dullsville from Dulltown.
Did you hear Roy Keane's criticism of Haaland?
We said he was a League Two player.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Obviously, that's a drastic over exaggeration. But he didn't have a good game, and there are times when there are absolutely elite parts of his game, but he's not a well-rounded striker. In terms of, he reminds me a little bit of Lukaku, whereas there's times when Lukaku in certain games, in certain situations, is given the right opportunities, you think, how do you stop this guy? When they're especially when he was in his mid to late 20s, there was especially even when he was at United and he was having a downtime, he still scored a goal every other game, and there were games where he can get on the turn, get a shoulder in front of a defender.
Yeah,
you aren't catching him and you ain't pushing him off the ball. He is gone, and Lukaku's Haaland. Sorry, I forgot his name. Haaland is quicker than him. He's got better service than him. There are times when it just feels inevitable, but the amount of times that he misses absolute sitters, and he has a ridiculous amount of opportunities to score. So of course he's going to score a load of goals. And this isn't me belittling it. He is an elite goal scorer. He's a fantastic striker. But some of his hold-up play, some of his build-up play, sometimes his first touch really lets him down. He's not a League Two player, but like I said earlier, balls were bouncing off him. He didn't seem to read the game that well. He air shot it wasn't even like he was being challenged for it. It just dropped in front of him and he missed the ball.
Yeah.
There's times where he wants to work in it, but that being said, from interviews that I've seen with him and things like that, he seems like the kind of guy that he's going to watch his tape back, and it's going to be a case of, right, I'm just going to do rep after rep after rep after rep. He's going to work on it.
I feel like he'd be better suited in Liverpool's team. Do you know what I mean? The sort of player he is, the way Liverpool play and the way Liverpool break, and sort of just ping balls over the top.
Yeah.
So that's him playing on the shoulders just seems to be the That's pretty much what he did at Dortmund, wasn't it? Like, just sort of sit on the shoulder and just wait for a ball to come over the top, and you're off.
Yeah,
like
if you can get the ball in front of him, and you see it like those are the times when he looks like unbelievable. When they do get it on the counter, and De Bruyne can find him with that ball through the lines. But so many teams just sit so deep, he finds it hard to affect the game. And playing a more transitional game would suit him. But then again, like, which elite team really plays that transitional game? Yeah, Liverpool will catch people like that now and again. Still, most teams are going to sit deep and defend against them. You know, Madrid under Ancelotti, but they ain't going to be signing him if they're bringing in Mbappe. Like, they've already signed Endrick. Like, that's the only other team who he's going to go to, unless he ends up going back to Dortmund at some point. And then again, it's going to be the same kind of deal there. It's just going to be... It's a part of his game he needs to work on. But he's still a kid. He's like, what, 22, 23? Like,
yeah, that's the thing. People forget how young he is, isn't they? Because he's sort of been known for so long. People forget how young he is still.
He was in demand at 18, wasn't he? So, like, it'll be a side of his game that he improves, no doubt. But he does need to improve it. But he's at Man City playing possession football under Pep Guardiola. So if there's anywhere that's going to give you the opportunity to improve that side of your game, he's at the right place for it, isn't he?
Absolutely. Just before we move on to the other game, just wanted to ask you about City. I was having a chat on my stream yesterday. Do you think this City team is coming towards the end of its sort of the peak of its powers almost? So obviously, you won the treble last year. Pardon?
Like the end of its cycle.
Yes, yeah. So it's like they obviously won the treble last year. We spoke at the start of the season and said like, well, they're going to have the same motivation to go again and try and win the league again this year. And they still could, but they've definitely not been as consistent as they were. Or they've seemed a little bit, maybe not in terms of results, but in terms of performances, haven't seemed as consistent this season. Even though they're still on for another treble, I don't think they're going to do it.
Yeah.
But you're looking at people like Kevin De Bruyne, who's obviously a little bit more injury prone now, getting into his 30s. Kyle Walker's into his 30s now. John Stones isn't getting any younger. Like, you know, there's a lot of players in that team. It feels like who are sort of reaching the end of, or past the peak of their power, sort of thing. Do you reckon it's time for City to sort of not sort of set everyone off and start again, but maybe start thinking about building the next like City 2.0, provided they're still in the Premier League by the time the independent panel has their way with them.
Yeah, probably. I mean, every team needs to go through that situation. I was in the perfect place to see it as a United fan through the 90s and the 2000s. Like, every team's got a shelf life, and you hear it when you hear from these players who were in those teams consistently. You have the players there who want to keep fighting and want to keep winning. They're the ones who stay. The other ones, no matter how good they are, get moved on. You saw it with United. You saw like Van Nistelrooy get moved on. You saw like brilliant players. When it was time, they had to move on and do something else. And I think maybe you're seeing that with players like, I mean, you saw Raheem Sterling move on in the summer. Jack Grealish, I think he's not getting in the team when he's fit. I think maybe he's probably going to move on in the summer, or would be likely to. De Bruyne is an unbelievable player and seems to be like a proper headstrong winner. So I dare say he'll still be at the club, but maybe they need to look for the next player to come in to be the replacement for him.
This could be Paquetá.
Or maybe someone a bit younger, like someone like But I feel like they have been slowly bringing in that younger. Like a few of the younger players, a lot of their signings are really young. Doku's really young. You got Vardiol's really young. They're bringing through and bringing in young players to start to kind of refresh the system. But yeah, maybe it is time. Is Pep going to be the one to actually finish that? He's never been someone who sticks around forever. And if these charges get stuck onto him or stuck onto the club, he ain't going to want to stick around for that. He doesn't want that on his record. So I think if City win the Champions League and the league again, I think he'll go.
I think so.
And if not, I think next year will be his last year. And then it's going to be a big, big change. I mean, City are still going to be really strong. Like, it's not like Pep came in and turned them into winners. They'd already won 2 Premier Leagues by the time that he came in. They'd already built the squad that was winning stuff. They already had an elite team and had been there for years. Like, you had Pellegrini winning a title with this team. And Pellegrini was awful for you guys. Like,
he's useless.
Like he's not the manager that's been winning. Like, Pep has built a fantastic way of playing and a winning machine, but they weren't winning because of Pep. Like, they were already winning. They've just kind of the cherry on top at the end of it.
I mean, they already had Yaya Toure, Sergio Aguero, David Silva, Kevin De Bruyne, Vincent Kompany. They already had a spine there, didn't they?
Yeah,
like
they were already elite, and he just kind of put the finishing touches on it to play the football that he wants rather than just winning everything. So yeah, they'll keep winning. And you know, who knows who the manager is who's going to come into it? Is it going to be? It could be Alonso. It could be any of these young managers that are coming through. That'd break Liverpool hearts, wouldn't it? But, I think he's going to end up at Real after Ancelotti IMO. But we'll see. There's tons of stuff. Maybe Klopp will come in. Imagine.
Just before we do move on, actually, one more point to make. So with the title race, I felt like the result was probably, I think I said it on Twitter, like that felt like a bigger result for Liverpool than it did for Arsenal.
Yeah.
Do you think this puts Liverpool firmly in the driving seat, or is City still inevitable?
It's still so close. It's so close between the three of them. 9 games to play. They've all got like pretty even goal difference. I think City. You went through the last results on the stream. I think City have got slightly the kind of running, but Arsenal and Liverpool. I think Arsenal and Liverpool play each other, don't they? So there's 3 points going either way, or maybe 1 point, and that's better for City. Just because we've seen City do it so many times now, they're going for 4 in a row. They did the treble last year. They just know how to win games and get over the line. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if City just won every game now. They just go 9 wins. There you go.
Yeah.
The title. But we'll see how it goes. It's the closest it's been for years, and it can only mean it's a good thing. It's only going to be fun.
Yeah.
And it's really close at the bottom as well. It's looking like it could go down to the last day of the season for promotion, for champion and relegation, which would be fantastic.
Oh yeah, that'd be wicked. It's weirdly, I kind of hope West Ham are out of it by the last game of the season, because I can't be watching us play Man City on the final day being like, well,
yeah, if they need a win as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, there's the 9th.
Yeah. Oh no, sorry, at home it's away. Oh yeah, no, it's no chance. Happening. Yeah. If it was at home, no, it's away from home. Shit. Okay. Yeah.
At least you won't be there for it.
Yeah, no, it's true. I'll be in bed. Hiding under a duvet.
3 p.m. on a Sunday. Perfect.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't watch the Man United Brentford game because I was too busy swearing at everything.
And I wish I hadn't. So,
by all accounts, all I've heard from it is that United were dreadful and nearly pulled off the robbery of the century by nearly beating Brentford. Fair assessment of the game, or
yeah. I think Gary Neville said it best on his podcast. It's difficult to play that badly. It's hard to play that badly, and like there was times when it was dire. Brentford, as you know, as good as they have been at times, have been really poor this season. I know they've missed players through injury and suspension and all that kind of stuff, but they've still been really poor. They're still missing their starting back line. There was a decent first 10 minutes from United where it's like we look like we're on the front foot, look like we're pressing them, look like we're getting into it. It's like, okay, we keep continuing on from the last couple of games where we've played a bit better. And then it just fell apart. Like, there's... Roy Keane has said this in the past, and he's said it a few times, and other people have echoed this. This team, the majority of this team, have got 2 managers sacked. They've thrown them under the bus. They'll get another one sacked. And I can't help but watch games thinking, you don't actually care. You aren't putting any effort in. There's a few players who, regardless of what's going on, like seem to be putting the effort in and putting the hard yards in, but you need everyone at the races. Yeah. Or else you just got one person running around like a headless chicken. I think Bruno puts effort in every time, but like I think a lot of the reason he looks so frustrated because he's the only one. Our front 3 got 0 service in that game because we just couldn't play out from the back. We didn't have any kind of real control in midfield. Marcus Rashford looks not at it at all, whether it's internal, whether it's external, whether it's personal, whether it's professional, whatever's wrong with him, there's just something not right there. And I've been saying it for the last few months. Look, if he doesn't want to be at the club, I'm all for having people who've come through the youth ranks being at the club forever. He's a top earner. At his best, he's fantastic. But if he doesn't want to be there, if he's phoning it in, then maybe he just doesn't have the mentality for it. Maybe it's the club's too big for him. I don't know, which is weird because he's been here for so long. But maybe he needs to go somewhere and start again. And if PSG throw 100 million at us like is being reported, then I'd take it at this point. As much as I want him to stay around, no one's irreplaceable.
You've lost better players in the past, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
lost more important, not just better, like more important players. Yeah, he was phenomenal last year. He had a really good season, scored 30 goals. He's not reflected at either side of that. So it's now going from he's had one off season in the last 3 or 4 years to he's had 2 in the last 4, or 3, he's been on it for a season and a half or like a 12-month period or whatever. And at some point you've got to cut your losses. And as much as I'm sure, like, he seems like a really good bloke. He's obviously done loads of good stuff socially and privately. If he is part of that dressing room that is has turned into a team that doesn't know how to win, I'd say the same with Luke Shaw. As on his day, probably one of the best left backs in Europe, but he's still a part of that core team that has forgotten how to win stuff, has forgotten how to win. He's been there for a long, long time now. Is now the time to start cutting your losses and go, you know what? Your time here has been great, but we need to turn a corner. We need to go with something new. Like, and I feel like that about a lot of players. There's very few bright sparks. I think Diogo Dalot's been decent this year. I think even though he's been pretty average, he's probably one of the few players who's in with a shout of player of the season. Just because he's been consistently fine. And he's one of those players whose heads doesn't seem to drop. Bruno's been underwhelming but full of effort. Højlund's been good but missed half of the season through injuries. Kobe Mainoo's only played 20 games. But they're the players that have been good for us. Like our best players have been injured. Shout out to Onana. I think he made some unbelievable saves again. It's all fun and games when people are taking the piss out of him because he's had a stinker, but he's been consistently keeping us in games. We've been conceding 20 shots on goal for the past 10 games, and he's the one that's been playing really well. He's been great for us.
I was going to say, since AFCON, you've not really heard any, or not really seen or heard any sort of criticisms, or he's not really made mistakes, really.
He'll make a mistake and it'll be 5 days of TalkSport shows on it. But, I think he's been one of our better players, but because of the horror show he had in the Champions League, that's just going to hang over him for ages. But I think he's been great, recently at least. But there's just too many players just not putting any effort in, like not tracking a man, not continuing a press, not being a part of a cohesive team. There's too many too many players who just, like I say, look like they don't want to be there or can't be arsed. And it's a damning indictment of where we're at. Like I say, Neville said it best. It's hard to play that badly, and we were awful. The fact that we nearly nicked it would have been an absolute travesty. So, I mean, the fact that Brentford didn't win the game is a miracle. They should have won it comfortably because we were just poor. But like I say, a couple of great saves, a lucky goal from Mason Mount, who's good to actually see him on the pitch.
Forgot he played for you, to be honest.
So did I. What a signing he's been. 65 million quid for about 12 games before he was available on a free. Jesus
I went
Christ.
on Twitter. I forgot the game was on. I went on Twitter. I saw Man United won up Mason Mount. I was like, oh yeah. I completely forgot.
Yeah. I mean,
he was number 7.
Most people have. Like, he's just not been available all year.
No.
But so you can't really put anything at his feet. Like, he's been injured. He can't help it, but he's been injured. He was injured for a long time at Chelsea. So why we decided to spend a lot of money on him, God knows. But that's a different matter altogether.
We were talking about Chelsea on my stream last night. I was basically making the same point about Luke Shaw, about Reece James. I was like, it's they're so reliant on him, but he's never available. So at some point, you probably should just cash in on him. And someone went, yeah, but who's going to buy him? And I sort of thought about it. I went, probably United.
Yeah.
And then 6 months later and go, why is he never fit? Why did we not see this coming? Why was there no warnings?
Yeah, God, imagine. I mean, to be honest, I'd be hyped if we signed him. It's been bred into me at this point. I'm just used to it.
Yeah. You'd be sat here in the summer being like, no, he'll be fit. It's fine. It's a Chelsea problem.
He's over it now.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
He's champing at the bit.
Fast forward to December. Where is he?
Yeah. Oh, God. Yeah. I can see it now. But yeah, it's just another worrying state of affairs at United. But it's just all up in the air. And the frustrating thing is like teams around us who we need to drop points are dropping points, aren't looking convincing. Spurs are Spurs; they're going to Spurs something up. Villa have been off the pace a bit recently, like, and we're just not taking advantage of it. And it's you watch the performances sometimes. It genuinely feels like the team can only get up against a derby opposition, like a big game. It's like, okay, big game feel, people are up for it, and then that's the only thing that's getting them over the line. Whereas like games where we need to be at it against, I don't want to say like we should be beating Brentford, but we should be better than we were. Like they put 4 past us last year, and like they drew. Did we draw? Or did we lose to them at the start of the season? I can't remember now.
I think McTominay got 2 late goals, and
that was it. Yeah. We relied on McTominay, like, but it's just poor effort. And on McTominay, like, if he's not being effective in the opposition box, he's not bringing anything. Yeah. I checked the match stats after, like, and in a system where it looks like we want to keep hold of the ball and kind of build through the thirds, having Scott McTominay in your team is just a negative. Because I looked at his stats, like, he touched the ball 24 times in the game. Onana touched it 23. He made 23 passes. Like, so he had one more touch than the goalkeeper. Like, he actively avoids play, and when he's on the ball, he's not good with it. Yeah, he's got energy. Yeah, he gets himself around, but he doesn't track a man. He can't act. He has no defensive awareness. He is chaotic in the final third. But in a game like that, where we're not getting in the final third, where we're losing the ball in midfield all the time, why is he even on the pitch? Yeah, I get we've got injuries and players like aren't fully fit. Change things around, like get someone up, get Bruno deeper, like get someone on the ball who can actually pass the ball, or will look for the ball. It's really frustrating watching him play game after game after game when he's just not an effective, he's not an effective player in possession. Like I say, last 10 minutes, for some chaos in the box, getting on set pieces, that kind of stuff, he's fine. He's good. If you want that number 10 who's going to crash a box and get on the end of stuff, he's perfectly fine. But not.
He would have been. He really would have been a great signing for us.
Yeah, genuinely. Like, if you want a Souček style midfielder, like who can crash the box and be chaotic, he's great. He'd have been a great foil for you. But for the way that it seems like we want to play, I'll be honest, I don't really know how we want to play, because the makeup of players is all over the place. We've got players like Garnacho and Rashford, who are great in a quick transition system, but lose the ball a lot because they try and beat a man or take a shot. You've got Højlund, who's a really good hold-up player and gets in behind, so like he suits like a bit more of a direct play, but he's not really a hit him on the counter kind of player. Which is what Bruno is. He's a great hit him on the counter kind of player because he gets the ball, looks up, plays the ball in behind. So you've got a front line trying to do that, but you've got defensive players who can't play high up the pitch, can't initiate transitional stuff. You've got players like Martinez and Shaw and Kobbie Mainoo who want a possession style of play. It's this mishmash of different styles and different ways of playing. And I know it's a team that's been built over different managers, but there's no joined up thinking in terms of how the team plays or the players that are being selected. If you want to play counter, cool. Like, get players on the pitch who can play that way, who we can sit deep and hit on the counter. But we're kind of playing this half high press, half drop off, too much space in midfield. It's just completely completely not joined up thinking. Like, there's no coherent thought to it. It looks like, and I know there's injuries, but yeah, like we've still got players available. You can still drill players to play properly, and this has been going on all season. And I know the manager had a really good year last year, and I know he's not had his players available. But the longer this goes on, the more I think he doesn't look like he's in control of the players or the way that they're playing. And the really concerning thing for me is the answers he's giving in press conferences. Like, he just seems like he's not in touch with reality of what's going on. That, or he's really ham-fistedly trying to pour cold water on the situation in a press conference. But it was the same thing that made me feel like Ole was off. Like, he was giving press conferences where it seemed like he wasn't watching the game.
Yeah,
there's one thing to try and like divert things away from players and all that kind of stuff, and there's another one where it just seems like you don't know what not only do you not know what you're talking about, you don't know what you're watching.
Yeah,
like you're a bit you're a bit blind to the reality of the situation, and it feels like he's at that position. And I don't want to see him lose his job. Like I say, he did a really good job last year. I think at his base level, he's a good manager. He's shown that over the course of his career. It's just the last like 9 months or so has been an absolute dumpster fire, and I wonder whether it has gone past the point of return now. And the scariest thing is, Southgate's being linked to the job, and I don't know
how much truth is in that.
Like, I really hope it is nonsense. I really hope
I just can't see it. Even if there's truth to it, I don't think I don't think he'd take a club job. I just don't think he would. Like, not so. I can't imagine. Southgate doesn't strike me as like someone who's like got an ego big enough that he thinks he could walk from the England job straight into the United job. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like he'd I feel like he'd leave England and want a break. Well, yeah, I genuinely think he does as well. Like, I don't know. I think,
and you know what? Like walking into, I know it's a new setup at United, but I think him, especially, like walking into that situation, almost knowing you're going to fail. Like, it's like that's really going to sour the taste of a lot of just for yourself. Like, it's just going to be a shit situation. Like, I know I'm not good enough to manage a team the size of Man United. Why would I put myself in that situation?
Yeah.
Like,
I feel like he's only being linked because of the Dan Ashworth thing. Because obviously Ashworth used to work in the FA and stuff. That's like, I saw the report the other day going, "Oh, Ineos wants to take all Southgate's coaching staff," and it's like, what? Why? Like, that doesn't really seem in line with anything that like there's been happening off the pitch at the club in terms of like getting the City CEO in and going for Ashworth and going for, I think I've seen today they're going the dude from Southampton's coming in as well. Like, to then just sort of go like, and like, look, I'm not. Like, we'll talk about England in a sec. People know me. I'm not. I don't mind Gareth Southgate. I don't hate him. I don't think he's like as bad as a lot of people make out to be. There's no way he should be taking the Man United job. I don't see how Ineos can be employing these seemingly sort of top level people to make the football decisions, and their answer they've come to is Gareth Southgate rather than like
that is Woodward 101 playbook. That
yeah, exactly. So rather than like you'd expect more like there's this manager from like this European side, or like we really like, I don't know. So whenever Graham Potter gets linked, it's just like that just feels lazy because like Nice wanted him a few months ago, and now Thingy's at United. His name's not Thingy. What's his name? Radcliffe's at United. Like, it's like, oh, they must want Potter as well. Then it just feels like journalists are sort of putting two and two together and coming up with five.
And what hoping they're doing is they're taking England manager Gareth Southgate headline potential and Man United headline potential, and just marrying the two together
as well. Yeah,
gets clicks, gets idiots like me and you talking about it. So,
well, speaking of England, we did have the international break last week. It was part of the reason why we didn't have a podcast last week because by the time we would have recorded, only one game had been played. It seemed quite pointless. So we figured we'd come back this week and do both games. I mean, look, obviously people's perspectives might be different. I looked at these friendlies in a couple of ways. One, in the sense that I looked at them as if they were pre-season friendlies. In the way that I look at pre-season friendlies in the sense of I'm not really that bothered about performance or results, really. Like, I'm more looking at individual performances and sort of what the new thing, whatever new thing the manager's trying out, sort of thing. And just trying to take any positives you can take from what you see, sort of thing. I also don't think they're a great time to have friendlies because there's 10 games to go left in most of the domestic leagues around the world. And you saw John Stones and Kyle Walker go off injured in the second game. Like, no player really wants to risk getting injured. So are they really going to be playing at their highest level? But with all that being said, the Brazil game, obviously annoying 1-0 defeat, but I didn't think we were terrible in it. But I did think we were a lot better against Belgium, and we probably should have won had it been for better finishing on our part and not giving them 2 goals out of nothing. I actually thought it was a fairly productive international break in the sense of some of the players we've got to look at. Like, I thought Gordon looked really good against Brazil. Thought Bowen looked really good against Belgium. Thought Mainu was great against, but like the midfield specifically against Belgium of Rice, Mainu, and Bellingham was really, really strong. And when Manu came on against Brazil as well, looked really good. And we found out players that maybe shouldn't be going to the tournament, like Lewis Dunk. So there's positives and negatives, I think, from that.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. Like, the main point being it's a terrible time to have an international break. Maybe don't have an international break now. Finish the season a month earlier or a week earlier, and then have an extra friendly or two before, whilst you're actually building up to a tournament. When all the domestic stuff's been finished, maybe do that rather than having a pointless international break now. Also, like, I mean, I kind of agree. But like, if you're using this as a pre-season type thing to have a look at players that you might not know whether they're on the plane or not, or want to get a good idea of them, use more of them. Like, rather than starting Kyle Walker and John Stones and all these players who it's like, okay, we know that Kyle Walker and John Stones are going to be starting in defence for England if they're fit. Okay, who's their backup? Who's playing right back? We don't know. Who's the backup centre back? We don't know. All right, let's have a look at some more centre backs and right backs. Let's have a look at other players in that midfield. Yeah, give Manu minutes. Cool. We know that Declan Rice is going to play. Who's his backup? No idea. Let's have a look at a couple of players who can play there. Jarrod Bowen was great, granted. I thought Ollie Watkins, some of his movement was decent, but couldn't finish. It felt like there wasn't really a lot of final third invention in that game, so it was hard for him to get involved. I thought Ivan Toney looked good. Some of his hold-up and link-up play was really good. Yeah, those kind of players is perfect chance to have a look at them. Some awful defensive performances. But like the Brazil game for me, like no one really looked that hard. Everyone looked they were running at half power, and it's a friendly for Brazil as well. But they look like they wanted to win a game. So I don't really buy into the other teams aren't trying as hard. They were trying as hard. They won the game.
I don't know. I feel like you see. I feel like I don't know. I feel like it's always different with England for some reason, because there's always been this thing of like you always hear it when English players talk about when the international break comes along. And maybe it's been a little bit different since Southgate's been in charge. But like, I remember Gerrard spoke about it. And he was like, when England Dewey came up, everyone was always a bit like, oh, got to go with England now. Like, great. Whereas all like the Brazilian players and all like the Spanish players or whatever, it was like their favourite time of the year. Like, love going away internationally and meeting up with all their mates and stuff and playing together. So maybe there's a little bit of element of that where it's like we just, barely get to see each other. Whereas like obviously a lot of the English players see each other every other week, right? Like playing against each other or playing with each other. So maybe there's more to it. Maybe that's part of the reason for it.
Maybe
as a counter.
Maybe, but you're also you're starting a game with Jude Bellingham, who's the best player in La Liga at the minute. Phil Foden, who's been phenomenal. Like two of the best especially with Ollie Watkins, one of the best strikers in the league at the minute. You've got unbelievable creativity and playmaking ability in that team, and you're failing to create anything. Like the Brazil game, other than that one Ollie Watkins chance, I think every chance was created from a set piece, either a corner or a free kick. And to have Phil Foden coming into the middle of the park, Jude Bellingham, Declan Rice on the pitch, it's like that is a world-class midfield, and you're doing nothing with it. You're not, like, whether it's a setup thing, whether it's an instruction thing, whatever it is, it's not clicking, it's not working. So yeah, like that was the disappointment to me. Yeah, we gifted Belgium a couple of goals, but again, like other than like some bits of really good play, I actually thought the interplay between Foden, Bellingham, and Manu was really like some of that little first touch, move and run, like just that was really good. But then it had just come to nothing, like a lot of the time, and there wasn't really a whole lot of opportunities. The fact that they scored a penalty, cool. Like it's a penalty in it. But whilst you say it's more like looking at the kind of players you can get into the team, yeah, but you also want to see how you're going to be playing, how you're going to create chances, and we just don't.
Of course,
and it's just again. I mean, I've been fully on the record of like I just don't think Gareth Southgate's a very good tactical manager. I think when he tries to make changes in games, it either has no effect or a negative effect. Sometimes he's set up all right, but when you look at his record against good teams, he just doesn't win very many games against good teams. His crowning achievement is beating a bang average Germany side. Yeah, he's got to a final. He's got to a semi-final by beating teams that should be beaten. He's like teams that are outside of the top 10 in the world. Favourable draws. Yeah, you've still got to win the games that are there, but they should be the games they should be winning. And I just think it's going to be same old again at the next tournament. I don't see England doing a whole lot. I don't see them beating any teams that they are the underdogs against. I don't see them winning it. There's other teams out there that got much better players and better managers to boot. So we'll see how it goes. I think it's just a shame that you've got some really elite players. So players like John Stones and Kyle Walker, and players we've had in the past, and Harry Kane, like he's 30 now. Like we've had a long period, all these guys, these elite players, have given their best years to a manager that I just don't think is good enough to win a tournament. And that's the frustration. It was the same for like the comparison and criticism of that opinion is always, well, no one was doing any better in the 2000s and the 90s. It's like, yeah, but the same criticism, the criticism was the same.
Yeah,
it's like, just because it wasn't good enough then doesn't mean that getting to a semi-final and a final is good enough now. You know, there's better players than the results and the there's better players than the performances that are being put out, is all I'd say.
Yeah, I think I struggle with it because I'm always like, I feel like it's always like this prior around this sort of time of the international break in March, just before it's
I've been calling him shit for years.
No, I know you have. But like,
this isn't a new thing.
No, I know. But I mean, in general, like, it feels like England are always like quite underwhelming in these friendlies, like, or in the months leading into a tournament when it comes to playing friendlies beforehand. I always feel like England are quite underwhelming, and then we get to a tournament and we're usually fine. Like, I'm not saying we're I'm not saying we're definitely going to win. I think it's right to say we're one of the favourites. I think we should be, like you say, because of the players we've got.
In terms of the quality of the players that we've got, we should be one of the favourites. I think my concern is, well, who's going to be fit? How are they going to be set up? Like how is the team going to be allowed to play? Like I said, like all of our quality is at the top end of the pitch. Other than John Stones and Kyle Walker, all of our quality is at the top end of the pitch. Declan Rice is a good screener, but like when the only viable option, it seems, as a midfield partner for him is a guy that has got 20 games for Man United. Like, that's a concern for midfield. That is a real concern for midfield. But we've got tons of options up front. Like, so lean into your strengths. Create chances. Get the ball up the pitch and create a load of chances. Try and outscore teams. Because if you want to rely on who's going to be fit at left back, a goalkeeper that, is a decent goalkeeper, but he's not elite, and John Stones trying to hold down the defense on his own. It's like, okay, get the ball up the pitch and try and score some goals. Like I say, we're playing against a Brazil team that hadn't won in 4 and has been like, they've just sacked their manager and got a brand new manager in because they've been so shit. Only creating opportunities from set pieces. That's concerning. Like that is my concern.
It is a concern. I think what gives me a little bit of hope is, I know I'm harking back to a tournament that was a couple of years ago now, but like in the last World Cup, I thought we were going to get battered by France, and I thought we were actually quite unlucky to go out. I actually thought we matched them for most of the game. So it's like that gave me something in the sense of like, okay, we can actually go toe to toe with teams that are either better than us or on equal grounds of us in terms of sort of strength and depth and whatnot. And I thought I thought it was a good game, and the decisions that Gareth Southgate made in the game is what lost it, to be honest. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's all on him. I don't know, but like, yeah, I don't know. I think, but what I do think is, I think no matter what happens, I think this will be his last tournament. Because like, he's not really saying anything about. I think he's been asked a couple of times now about what his plans are, and he's not really committing to anything. There was a report like a few months ago, I think just for the new year, like saying it's pretty much been agreed that whatever happens, he'll be off. But I think a big concern for England is moving forward. I don't know if there's a viable option in terms of who comes in and replaces him. I know there's names like Eddie Howe and Graham Potter and people like that, but
I don't think Potter would work. Like,
I don't think Potter would work either.
I think Potter he's obviously a very good coach, but you don't get the opportunity to coach with England. You've got to plug and play. Basically, you got to get a simple system that gets the most out of the players you've got, and you can't spend 12 hours a day on a training field running out the minutiae. I think Potter's going to get another job, and he'll probably do a really good job depending where he turns up. Like if he ends up at a Palace or like a team that's got some opportunities to develop some young players and play an attractive style of football, he'll probably do really well because he's a good coach. I think, if you bring in someone like Eddie Howe, maybe, like, if he's available, like, should the Newcastle bubble burst, I think he'd be a decent shout. Like, he seems like...
I think he's the most viable option for me. But, like, I can't... Gary O'Neill's another one. But the thing is, I don't know if the England job is sort of as, like, much of an attractive proposition for managers these days as it maybe used to be. Do you know what I mean? Like,
it's not the pinnacle of football anymore.
No, if you're Gary O'Neill, what's better for your career? Going for the England job and being under that much scrutiny all the time, or just sticking with Wolves and just plying your trade more at Wolves for a couple more years? Do you know what I mean? Like, I think it's slim. And that's if the FA want to go down the route of like we're sticking with English manager sort of thing, which I mean I don't really have a. I think it helps, and there's stats to back up as well. But like I wouldn't be asked if it was a foreign manager, but like. I don't know. I do think the sort of pool of managers out there is quite limited. So it's kind of like if Southgate does go, like he goes, I'm happy overall happy with the job he's done. I just don't know who the hell comes in after him.
Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I think he's done a decent job in terms of comparatively to other England managers. Like, you can't argue with that because he has got to semi-finals. He's got to a final. But my thing with him is always, well, yeah, but. What's he overachieved at? I don't think he's overachieved at anything. I think he's just. I think he's done a decent job. He's a nice bloke. Like I don't have any ill will to him. I don't dislike the guy. I just don't think he's a very good football manager. That's the only thing.
I think the biggest thing he's done is I think he's changed the way players look at the England team now. Like again, I saw what the sort of attitude of the previous golden generation and stuff. I think in terms of bringing a club feel to England. And making it feel like more of a cohesive team of players who actually get on and enjoy being with each other. I think that's actually the biggest thing that he's done.
Yeah.
And it's important that the next guy builds on that and keeps that going. If it doesn't, that will be the downfall.
If you can keep that feeling, but get a good manager in, get a manager who knows how to affect the game with changes and subs and stuff, then we might be onto something. We might have a really good team. We need some defenders to come through, though. Like, we really do. Sure.
And some central midfielders. So,
well, because we've got like Levi Colwill.
Yeah,
fill in your blanks.
I feel like goalkeeper's a little one as well because it's like I'm not writing Pickford off after what happened. I think that is his first mistake in an England shirt, so it's like it was bound to happen at some point. I'm glad it happened in a friend, not a tournament. But like,
it was bound to happen.
I don't think he's that bad. I really like Pickford. But outside of Pickford, you got Ramsdale, who's had shaky moments and plenty of them. You've got Pope, who is good, but in terms of like a modern goalkeeper, in terms of distribution and stuff, I don't know is as in that sort of bracket. And then past that, you got Sam Johnston, and it's kind of like, so a goalkeeper could be a bit of a ropey situation in the next couple of years.
And not only that, like they're all other than Ramsdale, they're all late 20s, early 30s. Like there's no young up and coming keepers like. Dean Henderson,
James Trafford.
Yeah. Dean Henderson was like going on about himself like he was, Lev Yashin, slagging off Man United as he walked out the door. And like he's been at 2 different clubs now, can't get a game. Like maybe he just shit. Maybe that's why he wasn't getting games.
Someone went to me, I wonder if Jack Butland's going to get called up. And I'm like, he's probably like 10th choice. Why does it like to be third choice England goalkeeper?
He's probably 5th choice, to be honest. Like, it's not very deep.
But you know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. Like, he's just going to be third choice if he does go. Why does it matter? Like, sure, take him. Doesn't matter.
Take David James.
Yeah, fuck it. Why not?
Yeah, do the old David Beckham, coach on the sidelines thing.
What's Neville Southall up to?
Slagging off Tories, probably.
Yeah, well, even more reason to get him in. Honestly.
So we kind of like briefly touched on it. Is there anyone you think who's really kind of cemented their place in the England squad? For me, I think Bowen was really good, and I think Anthony Gordon was effective. I don't think he was as good as some people have been putting out, but the thing I like about Gordon is like he is one of those few players who is he is an energizer bunny and he's quick, so he's always going to be a threat from minute 1 to 90. So I think he should be on the plane either way. I think the only thing with Bowen is because there's so many options up top, like. We didn't see Grealish there, even though he's not been in much form all year. Missing quite a few wingers and number 10s there. I was disappointed not to see what's his name, the lad at Chelsea, whose name's just completely
Palmer.
Yeah. I was disappointed not to see Palmer because he's had a great season. He is literally the one shining light in that Chelsea squad. He seems like he can create and score. I was disappointed not to see him, basically, because I think he could have had a shout to get on there. Because he didn't get picked, I don't know if he's going to be making the squad. I think it's going to be tough for spots in the final third. Defensively, like you say, I don't think Dunk covered himself in glory.
No, shocker.
The thing is, though, like I think generally, like his general play. If he wants to be that team that plays out from the back with John Stones in there, I think he's the best partner for him. But you know, like you got beat over the top and muscled off the ball by Lukaku. It's happened to plenty of other defenders. If we're acting like Harry Maguire wouldn't have had his ankles broken by, and then we're having a laugh. You know, then you are in some dreamland that I would like to be on. But yeah, he didn't cover himself in glory. He had a couple of poor games. But again, like as a third, fourth choice centre back at a tournament, I think I'd rather have him than some of the other options that are there, to be honest.
Yeah, I still probably take him.
Especially when you factor in that, like, Gareth Southgate just seems to hate Tomori for some reason. Like he's having another solid season in Italy. It doesn't look like they're going to go and win the league. Inter are running away with it a bit, but he's having another season at a big club at the top of the table, and he's still like scraping the barrel for anyone else other than him. It seems like.
Yeah, the Tomori ones, but I always find it difficult to comment on Tomori because I don't watch Milan, so I've never seen him play. So it's like I can't say for certain how well he's playing, but
he's not.
Obviously, Milan are having a good season. Like
he's not a lights out. It's not you watch him and think, oh my god, like there's the next coming of Ledley King or whatever. Like, but like, he's a good defender. He covers ground well. Like he's strong. He's decent on the ball. Like he's a good centre back, but he just seems to not. He just seems to not like him.
On Palmer, see, I tried to pick like 23, like my 23. It's really bloody difficult.
Yeah. Well, again, because it's in that area of the pitch where we've got tons of options.
I would rather take so my 23 example. I've not included Palmer. I'll admit I'm biased. I would take Bowen, but there is like reason for it. I think Palmer comes into that category of players who are all a little bit too similar. So like Foden, Maddison, Grealish, like players who play out wide, who can also play 10, who can also play a little bit deeper, who are sort of tricky technical players. And I think what Bowen offers you, whilst he's fairly similar to Saka in terms of like he's a fairly quick right winger who likes to cut in and get on his left and whatnot. I actually think Bowen offers better movement off the ball than Saka does. I think gets into better goal scoring positions than Saka does, and I think his sort of work rate in general tracking back would be an asset to have. It's the same reason I take Gordon, like because I think you said he offers so much energy. I think he's really good in the press. If we want to sort of press teams a bit higher up, he's a great option to have for that. That's one of the things that for me against Brazil. Like he was just constantly just buzzing around that back line trying to get the ball. And again, he's not one of those wingers where he's like a Foden or a Maddison or a Palmer. Again, those sort of Grealish, overly technical site wingers. I just think he's more of an explosive winger. The one big question mark for me is Rashford, because I just don't know. He's having such a poor time of it. And I've always said, I don't think form necessarily matters across every area of the pitch. But I do think for attacking play or goal scorers, like you've got to be picking on form really, because strikers are, they make their career on confidence, don't they? Like if you've got a confident striker, like they're more likely to have more success in front of goal. The issue is Rashford is one of those few players who we've got on the wide areas who is just explosive and full of pace, and we don't really have any other wingers like that.
He does seem to turn it on for England as well. Like when he gets to England, that's one of my big frustrations in that France game. Is like he was England's top scorer, playing really well, gave him 5 minutes. Like get him on the pitch, get him running at people. Like he is one of those players that, and to be fair, when he has an England shirt on, more often than not, he does put in a good performance. But I wonder whether like just the bigger scope of everything is just going to affect his performances there.
I just don't know if you can take him. I've also, but like the players, I haven't found space for Maddison. Like I really like James Maddison, but again, my thinking is, you've got Bellingham, you've got Foden, like. I don't know how. Like we're wearing 23 players. How many number 10s can you realistically fit in as well?
Yeah, I think with Foden, like more often than not, he plays off the wing, doesn't he? Like for England, anyway.
That's the thing. Yeah.
So like if he's taking up like one of the wing spots, like
then you can probably put Maddison in. Like
I think the thing is with Maddison is he is a proper creator, and if you're in a game where you need to break someone down, and you could drop. Bellingham like a little bit deeper to play like a bit more of a double pivot and have just that pure creator in midfield, or even play Maddison a little bit deeper and dictate from deeper like he does for Spurs quite a bit. I like the idea of him being in the squad, and it's not like we're blessed with a ton of like central midfielders. It's why I've
included Gallagher, because it's either Gallagher or Henderson in terms of another out and out central midfielder. I didn't think Gallagher was great against Brazil, but it's who else is there?
Yeah, I mean, I'd have Gallagher in the squad because he's another one of those players who is all effort. Like, granted, he's not the best player, but he seems like pretty tactically aware. He presses pretty well. Like, he's decent enough on the ball. And I think if you need someone to be that Energizer Bunny in the central midfield area, then yeah, take him. Same reason I'd take Kobe Mainu. I think he's one of the few central midfielders who's so composed in the middle of the park. Like, there was just like, he doesn't do anything overly flashy, just does everything really well. Like, seems to pick the right pass. Like, he knows when to turn a man, knows when to beat a man, plays the right ball at the right time, just reads situations really well. I think having him next to Declan Rice is just, I think that's the best central double pivot that we can go for. It's probably going to be him and Gallagher, Rice and Gallagher, like as a starting thing. Unless Southgate's really had his head turned by him in those games.
Yeah,
I think he was like, and not just being like a blinkered United fan. I think he was one of the better performers in both games.
Like, no, I agree. Like sorry, Scott, I wasn't. There was all the shouts of mine to speak go to the Euros, and I was always like, I think it might be a bit too early for him, and he has only played like 10 games. Like, I know he's played well, and in a pressure cooker environment of Man United, but I wasn't sure if Southgate was going to take him, and I wasn't sure if I was in charge. But like, I think his, like you say, his performances off the bench against Brazil and then start 70 minutes against Belgium, I think that, like I said, Southgate was very, very, very complimentary about him. I actually think there's a good chance that'll be the midfield three.
Yeah,
because I don't think Gallagher's done. I like Gallagher, but against Brazil, I didn't think he's been that great. When I've seen him in a couple of times previous to that, I don't think he's fine. That great next to Rice.
He'll offer a similar kind of thing to what Calvin Phillips does, I think, or did.
Yeah,
like he's a decent option, probably not the starter. Like, he's more effective like breaking from deep areas rather than sitting in a midfield double pivot. So, and that's kind of like how he used Calvin Phillips. And a similar kind of player, I think. Like, I think he'll offer that, and it's in a squad where we're not blessed with a ton of players who can do that. Having someone who can step into midfield and kind of do a few roles pretty well. Like, I think
Gallagher's someone Gallagher would be great if you're in like heading to extra time or something.
Yeah,
if you're in a knockout game and it's going to extra time, you need some energy in midfield.
Yeah.
I think he's a great option to bring on.
Just put the clamps on their playmaker, like just rat around him and make him rush stuff.
Yeah. And then the rest of it, like I've got Shaw and Chilwell. I don't want to take Chilwell based off the last couple of games he's played for, and not even just that. I think this season, whenever I've seen Chilwell, he's been crap. But
yeah, he seems well off it. Is that just the Chelsea thing? Like, it's like you pick Chelsea players, get Chelsea performances. If Shaw's fit, he's got to go. But is he going to be fit? We'll find out. I think you'll add at Palace. Mitchell. Yeah, I think because he's back from injury now, if he can get a solid run of games under his belt, get a bit of match fitness, I'd rather see him in the squad over Ben Chilwell. But
yeah,
I don't know whether Southgate's going to make that decision.
It's a bit too late, it feels like.
Yeah, and as well, like with players like Trippier maybe getting back match fit soon, I think he'll be on the plane. Joe Gomez going. I don't think he's the answer. I don't think Liverpool's third choice left back is the answer for England, but he's versatile enough to kind of like cover a lot of positions.
And he's had a good season. Like,
he's had a solid season. Yeah, he's like, I'm glad for the guy because he's had just like hell for the last 5 years. So if he's getting fit, playing a bit better, getting a bit of confidence, and he can be that guy who's our basically third choice in every defensive position, then fair enough. Like he'll fill a role there, especially in a smaller squad. So,
do you know who I would have taken if Trippier wasn't available? Genuinely, I'd have taken Livramento.
Yeah,
he's basically Trippier light, can play right and left back. He's quick, really good defender. Like, he's a
delivery.
Kieran Trippier regen.
Well, yeah, I think that's why Newcastle signed him, right? But he's injured as well now. So
would have taken him prior to his leg falling off.
yeah. If all we need to do is make sure that the rest of the Newcastle players don't fall apart.
So at this rate, Jacob Murphy might get a call up. It's not the answer.
Dan Burns on the plane.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, I can see why they want 26 players instead of 23, because I was doing it and I was like, this is well difficult.
Yeah. It's
let's make this 23.
And there's so many of those players as well where you're like, oh, is he right? Like, I'd rather have a couple of options there, like just in case. But I mean, this is it's a squad game, innit? You got to use what you got.
Yeah.
Right, I think we'll, on that note, after the malaise of England performances, we'll wrap it up on that. It's been a pretty shit week all around for the pair of us. Hopefully things brighten up, but with Liverpool,
Spurs at home tomorrow.
With Liverpool on the horizon for me and Spurs for you. I mean, it's Spurs. You'll probably win that. That's
No, I'm not confident. We got it was a bit of Spurs, Wolves, and then Leverkusen. I'm about to have the worst week imaginable. Like Leverkusen, by the way, everyone was going like, "Oh, you never know if any team's going to beat them, it's going to West Ham." Now Leverkusen players now the biggest lift of their season. Of Xabi Alonso saying, "I'm staying for another year."
Yeah.
They're going to be well up for it.
And Bayern have essentially just handed them the title as well.
Yeah, they can afford to take a couple of league games off either side of our
they can rotate now.
Brilliant, fantastic, can't fucking wait.
Cheers, lads. So yeah, everyone remember that when we inevitably have to postpone next week's podcast. Well, thank you as always, guys, for tuning in. Make sure you're liking, sharing, subscribing, sending it to your friends, forcing your cat to listen to it, whatever you're doing with this podcast, on whatever platform you're listening or watching on. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
I hate Calvin Phillips.